Okay, well, this isn't going to be the best video I've ever done, but it should give you a pretty good idea of the controller that I built, and actually see it in action with a strut shock absorber, and show you some of the functions and some of the cool things I built in to the system. So what you're looking at there is the controller. Coming out the right side of the controller, you can see the factory wiring harness plug ports that would normally plug into the factory controller. So you unplug and plug straight into the controller I built. On the front of the controller, as it's facing me here, that's the retrofit harness. So that's what I used in my 98 VR4 to retrofit the ECS struts back into my 98 VR4, and then I used that connection port to run all the individual wiring connections to each of the 4 struts, plus the display, the LED display that I had that I'll show you in just a second. So in this setup here, I'm actually kind of doing a hybrid. I've kind of got the factory setup using the factory wiring harness to the console, which I'll show you in just a second, and that would also normally be the connectivity path to the struts, the 4 struts themselves. In this case, like I said, I have a bit of a hybrid. The factory connector harnesses here are just for the console, and I'm using the retrofit harness connections here to actually connect to my test strut, which is right here, sitting on that box on the floor there, and hooked up. Behind the strut, you can see the LED display I've set up, which right now is showing 4 struts. The top right one, which is the test strut that I have hooked up, is the strut that's currently in hard mode. And the other 3 struts are showing red LEDs indicating the failure condition because they're not hooked up. The controller's saying, hey, I've got a problem. I'm not reading the other struts correctly. The hybrid setup I've got, I'm actually using the LEDs plus the console and the rotary selector switch there. You can configure the controller in the replacement case, like I have in my wife's Spider, to continue to use the ECS push button switch. And again, I'll show you that in just a second. Let's take a quick look inside the controller. There's a few things worth noting there. So there's the plug ports for the factory harness. Here's the retrofit harness plug port. 4 half-amp fuses, 1 for each of the struts in case the wiring harness shorts out on the strut side, which has been known to happen. A 2-amp main fuse, also a set of jumper pins right here, and that's where you actually configure the controller to tell it if you're going to be using the rotary switch as the add-on, or you're going to be using the factory ECS push button switch on your console. So, and then all the rest of the stuff in there is power supply and the rest of the controller electronics for the actual struts and lights and all that stuff. So that's the controller. It's a little bit smaller than the factory, and it fits quite nicely, in any of the original mounting locations. So let's show you this kind of in action here a little bit against the console, so you can kind of see what the LED lights look compared to the factory setup when using the console. So right now, again, the strut is in hard mode, the one test strut I have, which is the front right strut, and you can see that the factory light, the sport light, is on, indicating hard mode. If I turn the controller knob here, like I said, I have this one configured for the knob and not the ECS switch, to the next position, you'll see that it went to that blue color on the LEDs, and the Tour and Sport light both just turned on. When both the Tour and Sport light are on, that's indicating the strut's in medium mode, which you don't have with the factory controller, and that's kind of the point of this demonstration, at least the way I kind of queued it up in the post. And that's what you see. And then if you go to the next position, that will take it to that blue LED color indicating the strut's in soft, and the console goes to, the tour light comes on indicating soft. So 3 positions, 3 different strut settings. Go back. That takes us back to medium mode. And then once again, that takes you back. One more click to the left, counterclockwise, takes you back to hard mode. You'll notice that the console light there is blinking intermittently. That's indicating a failure in one or more of the other struts, just like the LEDs are telling you exactly which struts are having a problem. You obviously don't have enough lights on the console, so you get the blinky routine. And then the unique thing about the controller is that I have a onboard diagnostic that will allow you to use the ECS push button switch and tour lights in combination to actually figure out which strut or struts is having a problem in the event of a failure. As I said in the post, this is a completely manual controller, so when the controller tests the struts, it's testing just the struts, and that's all it's worried about, the circuit path to the struts. Is it able to command them into the correct mode or not? It's not worried about any of the other sensors that come in through the wiring harness. Those basically just dead end at the board. They're electrically neutral and they don't do anything. So the throttle position sensor, the brake sensor, all of those other sensors are not used by the controller, and the controller does not interfere with any of those readings. Let me show you one other thing before I go into the final part. I'm butting my camera iPhone up against the physical shaft of the strut, so you can actually kind of hear the motor inside when I change the strut positions, and you'll actually see the display as it changes, and you should be able to hear it if you listen carefully. So let me go ahead and do that. Reach around here. I'm going to go to medium mode, hard, back to medium, back to hard. So that should have sounded familiar. You can sometimes hear that in the cockpit of the car when you're actually changing the struts, which is kind of interesting if it's not too loud. Yeah, so the last part that I want to show you was kind of a visual demonstration of what the strut's doing when you're actually changing these modes. Let me get set up for this. So before I actually do the demo, it's important to realize that the way that the strut shock absorber works is by providing different damping forces on compression and on expansion. They have different expansion rates, and if you look at the specs for the 3000 GT struts, you know, the hard mode has more damping force and compression and expansion than does the soft mode, and then medium mode's in the middle. So what that means is that the strut is going to resist in hard mode, you know, compression and expansion more so than it would when it's in soft or medium mode. So here's a practical demonstration of that. I don't know if you can see, but I actually have this strut in a compressed state, and it's being held down by this wire that I have clipped onto the mounting flange for the spring. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to release it here in a second while the strut's in hard mode, and you're going to see the strut column start to move up, and I have this little kind of wire hanging off to the side here, overlaid on top of the ruler. We're not going to measure anything. I'm just putting the ruler there so you can just kind of have something to look at as the strut shaft starts to move. So let me see if I can get everything lined up there. Okay, so here's the sequence. I'm about to release it, and then while it's in hard mode, while the shaft starts to rise, I'm going to dial it to medium mode, and then you should see an increase in rate of expansion, because medium has less dampening force than does hard, and then I'll go to soft as well. So here we go. I'll try and hold this still so you can see it. See it slowly start to move. I'm going to go to medium mode. It's going quite a bit faster. Soft mode, even faster. Back to hard. And it slowed down again. Finally back to medium, and it finished. So there you go, a practical demonstration of the damping force adjustment that you get real time with the ECS struts, and in this case the new controller I built, which gives you medium.